Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to episode 30 of Everything Meta. We have with us, as always, Joey. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Ken?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. You have a presentation for us, and we all want to know what you have to say. We're ready for you. Please proceed.
Thanks, Ken. How many? All 25 of us.
Hey, man, this is going down in history. This will
Right
be
on.
available forever.
Cool. Well, this isn't the final presentation, guys, but I was going to try to give a little preface to what Stephen and I have been working on. I think Mike is going to be coming in to work on it as well. What we're trying to do as a science style project is disrupt not only the livestock feed industry, but also the fertilizer industry, mainly retail fertilizer industry. And I'll just give you guys like kind of a brief overview of kind of what we've been up to and sort of what we're planning moving forward. And I think what Stephen and I will probably be pitching to the science DAO to try to push forward. Okay. So basically, guys, the problems, this is going to be the problem slide for the deck. Okay. There's problems that we're trying to address. Okay. Methane, livestock, fertilizer, and corn stover. Okay. Corn stover is essentially all the parts that you don't normally use from the corn. It's usually left out in the field. It is the largest biomass produced in the United States. Okay. It is the largest biomass produced in the United States. Okay. So, page 3, this is where you kind of go into and expand on some of the problems. Methane, the title methane, nitrous oxide, and cows. Okay. Methane has a 25 times the global warming potential of CO2. Okay. It's 25x more deadly for the atmosphere or for humankind than carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide has 300x the global warming potential of CO2. Okay, cows produce around 10 billion kilograms of methane each year. Okay, manure produces methane and nitrous oxide as it's anaerobically digested. Okay, so this is just kind of expanding on the methane problem. You can see cows produce a ton of methane, like tons and tons of methane. Okay, livestock, the impact of a cow. This is maybe some little known facts, but they can be kind of educational.
Mhm.
One cow produces 100 kilograms of methane through burps each year.
Mm.
Okay, it burps 100 kilograms of methane. There are around 95 million cows in the United States, producing nearly 10 billion kilograms of methane annually. Is my math right? Is my math right?
We'll check in post production.
Yeah, cool.
We don't do live math, Joey. No live
Right
math.
on. Right on. Okay, manure is another major contributor to methane off gassing. So with the cow, basically 80% of the methane that can come from the cow comes from the cow burping. Okay,
Mm.
not being able to digest its food and burping out methane. Okay, the other 20% is going to come from its manure,
Mm.
right? And the manure will digest and off gas methane over a period of time. Okay, so that's like how it's sort of broken down. So to address methane, coming from cows, you need to give cows something that they can digest more easily or help them with the digestion process to reduce methane coming out of their bodies. But you also need good manure management practices, right, in order to curb some of that. Okay, fertilizer, another problem. Your green thumb in the garden is not so green is the title. Studies suggest that fertilizer produces 100x more methane than originally estimated. This is like the overall fertilizer industry. So this is more like commercial fertilizer production chemicals. These are large large billion-dollar chemical companies that
Yeah.
are producing some of this stuff. Um, However, manure at your local Home Depot, right, is still digesting and still off gassing methane, right? And so
Mm.
part of the test that we're planning on doing is taking different brands of fertilizer and testing to see how much methane they off gas over time. Because when you go into a Home Depot, you guys see, like, bags and bags of fertilizer. Those are also contributing to methane off gassing, right? So problem number 4: climate change, feed shortages, and corn stover. Okay. Climate change is creating new challenges for hay farmers, cattle farmers, and feed producers. Feed shortages are causing early retirements. Corn stover, a byproduct of corn production, is the largest biomass in the U.S. and the largest contributor to methane emissions by farming in the U.S. Corn stover generally has no standard downstream use as it's difficult to digest. Okay. So basically, what we want to do, okay, these are just outlining some problems. Those are some pretty serious problems, right? A
Mm.
cow produces tons and tons of methane. There's tons of cows in the United States contributing greatly to greenhouse gas emissions, right? Um, it's verifiable. It's not, it's real stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. What we want to do, we aim to produce verifiable data utilizing mycelium and bioengineering to address modern farming problems and to produce data to be used to create downstream products to humanity. Okay. So we're going to be exploring bioengineering as well as natural approaches utilizing mycelium to address some of these issues. Okay. So solutions. All right. Solutions. Mycelium grows on manure. It may reduce methane emissions and rapidly aid in the digestion of said manure for fertilizer production. Okay. Because there's some mushrooms that absorb methane, right? And there's other mushrooms in mycelium that can help rapidly digest compost, right? Then we think if we expedite the digestion process, perhaps we can cut down the amount of methane off gassing from that pile of manure. Okay, so that's
Mm.
one of the tests. What mycelium will work, what mushrooms will work, how much does it reduce the methane off gassing, right? Okay, mycelium grown on corn stover has been shown to crack the biomass's cell walls, leading to a more digestible plant material for cattle. Okay, so introducing mushrooms, mycelium to corn stover has been shown to make the corn stover more digestible. What this will do for farmers, right, is it will give them a feed product, right, that they can then sell because it's digestible corn stover now, or they can go ahead and add as an additive and have their cows free range out on the corn stover, right? Right. Okay, a pre-digestion of animal feed may lead to less methane emissions by way of cattle burps. So what we think is, by essentially creating like a natural prebiotic, um, by pre-digesting or breaking the cell walls of different plant materials utilizing mycelium, it will make the biomass more digestible, which will in turn lessen the amount of methane being produced by the cow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this has been proven in some red algae species, where it's been able to reduce methane emissions by 80 to 90%. It's just the red algae is very difficult to grow.
Mm-hmm.
It's like nearly impossible to mass produce. And so now they're starting to try to bioengineer the algae to make it easier to grow. Okay. The other way forward is probiotic companies are starting to create additives for cattle feed and starting to experiment. One like the top 15 ag startups, at a competition, like national competition just recently. Okay, so basically, solution number 4: an expedited digestion of the manure can reduce methane emissions and provide farmers with alternative revenue sources in the form of pre-digested manure for fertilizer production. So lots of farmers like to sell their manure, okay, for fertilizer. However, during its anaerobic digestion, it's a very hot fertilizer, and so they'll take, they'll let it sit for a year, 2 years, 3 years until it's cooled down, all right, and can be used as fertilizer, right? But during that 1, 2, 3 years, it's off gassing, 20% of the methane coming from cows.
Hmm.
Okay, it's tons and tons of of uh of manure and methane off gassing. So what we think is if we help rapidly digest the manure that is sitting, um, it will off gas less and speed up the process in which the farmers that are managing that manure will have a product, a fertilizer product to sell, right?
Makes sense. Hmm.
Instead of waiting for a few years, they can go ahead and get it done. Okay, so those are the solutions. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to test for. Okay, this is the opportunity. Okay, this is partly why we want to pursue this. Okay, aside from helping the environment, there's a great deal of money involved in these industries. The cattle feed market is projected to be worth over $125 billion by 2030. Okay. The fertilizer market is projected to reach over $240 billion by 2030. Okay. There's over 7,000 farm supply stores in the United States. There's 95 million cattle in the United States. Okay. And it's a huge industry. People do not understand sometimes the size of the industry and agriculture and cattle feed, and cattle, just in general, right? People still want to eat meat. Okay,
Hmm.
it can still, different meats can still be sustainable when you're facing food shortages. People, need every bit counts. Okay, but we need to manage the methane, coming off. Okay, so the impact of our research, guys: livestock feed additives and manure management will be major solutions in reducing methane emissions in the coming years. Okay. Repurposing corn stover, the largest biomass produced in the US, will provide farmers with a new revenue stream. Okay.
Hmm.
That's what we're trying to do. And so basically, I hope that, yeah, 13 minutes, not too bad on the bitch. Basically, what we're trying to do, guys, is take is bioengineer, or potentially use a natural mycelium, okay, and run tests on manure, using different mycelium to see what breaks down the manure and produces less methane off gassing. So that's one experiment. The other one is going to be taking mycelium and breaking down various cheap forms of cattle feed, that are not previously fully digestible for the cow,
Hmm.
and seeing if it helps fully digest the feed, by breaking the cell walls, right? Like there's like even chlorella for like human beings, right? They have like kind of a tough cell wall, but there's different production methods in sort of breaking that cell wall that make it more easily digestible, for humans. And this goes for all sorts of things like micronized supplements and whatnot, are always there and available. So, anyway, guys, that's what we're trying to do. We'd really appreciate the support. I think that it can have a huge, huge, impact. Um, and I think that if we work together as a DAO, we can have a huge impact, address something that can get a lot of attention,
For
you
sure.
know. Yeah. So anyway, that's the overview. That's not the full pitch, guys. I'll have a deck made. Steven, I think, is going to be doing a presentation here coming up. We'll have a deck made. We'll have it all presented and pretty much ready to go. Hopefully by then the DAO and the smart contracts in the DAO will be done, and we'll be able to pick delegates here pretty soon. If you don't want to vote for yourself, you can pick delegates, and we can have delegates inside of the inside of the science DAO. So
That's pretty cool.
no.
I want to follow up and see if I can add a little YouTube clip from something I was going to use for a different segment, but that happens to dovetail into
Cool.
what it is that we're doing. So I'm going to try to add it real time, and let's hope it works out. Give me a second.
Methane leaks are speeding up global warming. They've become a top threat to the global climate in recent years, with the leaks at 2 Russian gas pipelines in the Baltic Sea as the latest example. Research has shown that reducing methane emissions is vital to averting the worst impacts of climate change. And after decades of focusing on gas carbon dioxide, policymakers are starting to recognize its threat.
So there's urgent need to do something, and there is a lot we can do.
But what is methane? It's the main component of natural gas. Some methane comes from natural sources like swamps, but most comes from human activity. 2/3 of those human-caused emissions come from livestock farming and fossil fuels. Much of the rest are from decomposing waste and rice cultivation. Scientists say methane is much more potent than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas in the short term. Methane breaks down in the atmosphere in a fraction of the time compared to CO2, but it has a front-loaded impact. When you compare the effects of both over a century, research shows methane is 28 times worse. But over 2 decades, that figure jumps to 80.
Thank you.
In 2021, over 100 nations signed a pledge to slash emissions from 2020 levels.
Together, we're committing to collectively reduce our methane by 30% by 2030, and I think we could probably go beyond that.
World governments, including the United States, are introducing requirements that the oil and gas industry detect and repair leaks, after studies showed leaks in the industry were a huge problem. And the world is close to crossing a so-called tipping point, where climate feedback loops kick in to make global warming self-perpetuating. One study says that events that could touch off those loops are imminent, like the collapse of the Greenland ice sheet or the melting of the Arctic permafrost.
So yeah, there's that.
The drive it home. I mean, it's serious stuff. Glad. I think I said 25 times more potent than CO2. They said 28, so I'm glad. It's always good to undershoot.
Yeah.
Some professionals correct you.
And I'm not sure if it was clear on the video that you guys will be seeing, but this is reporting from Reuters as of the 29th. I'll make sure I put a credit in the description for those of you who want to do your own research.
Oh, that was from yesterday?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah. Guys, it is serious. It is serious, and there are some things that we can do. Obviously, if you had to have the young generation, whoever is going to inherit the problems made by the decisions of an older generation, if you ask them if they want natural gas and methane, maybe it's hard to say. People still want to eat a steak. I think they still want a hamburger. They still want cow's milk, right? They still want some of these products. I think that just different practices need to be enacted. This is not coming from somebody that doesn't have livestock. I have livestock, guys. I got a huge pile of manure that I have to manage out there. So it's real stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so to put differently, what you're saying, I guess, is that you recognize the problem firsthand. You think about the solutions from the perspective of someone who literally has to deal with, at some scale, the same problems that you're seeking to solve.
Yeah, like my cousins, They have like 3,000 cows
Mm.
down in New Mexico. They're like a large dairy farm, you know, large from my perspective. That's a ton
Mhm.
of cows. In fact, my little cousin just won nationals for tie down roping not too long ago. I think last year, national junior high championship.
Wouldn't a ton of cows just be like one cow?
Uh,
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
where's your
3,000 cows.
Goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's serious stuff, and helping with the manure management process, I think is really good, right? Like there's that. Also utilizing things that normally aren't feedable, feedable, able to be fed, like corn stover, which sometimes people put their cows out on a corn field for winter feed, the little stovers poking up out over the snow. And so the
Mm-hmm.
cows are sort of able to go around and grab that,
Mm-hmm.
grab that stuff. However, it's not super nutrient dense, right? You can make feed out of it where you add different nutrients and different things where the cow can you know benefit from the stover as just like a fiber essentially. But it is a huge biomass. It is the largest biomass produced in the United States. Something needs to be done with it. And if
Mm-hmm.
we can break the cell walls, pre-digested essentially using mycelium, then the cows all over can have an awesome food source that is very cheap, and it would help with the food shortage, right? Because like a lot of hay, believe me, there's a hay shortage, right? And so some hay farmers, because the lack of water, the lack of whatever it is, are just retiring, and therefore the people downstream that have livestock, they're retiring also, and it'll create some type of snowball effect, right? So
Mm-hmm. Well, this is very good news. We look forward to the remainder of the details. I think that we should get this turned around and try to get it out as quickly as we can in
cool.
advance of any kind of decision time. So
Oh
I'll
yeah,
work.
and we'll have a better presentation. I kind of tripped into the beginning there, but it's always good to practice a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This time in front of the world, saved forever.
Yeah.
No,
Oh
no,
yeah,
no
we're
pressure. No
yeah.
pressure, Joey.